Have you ever stopped and thought, what would happen if your pet got sick or you had to make a really hard choice? This episode will be talking about pet grief and the process of losing a pet. Today I have a special guest, my partner, who will be sharing his journey of grief and any tips he has if you are experiencing this. We are going to cover the process of putting a pet down and the costs involved. Trigger warning, this may be emotional, so make sure you take good care of yourself. Welcome back to today's episode on the What is Eating You podcast. It is 2024 and I'm so excited to have my partner on his second ever episode to talk about a little bit of a sensitive topic. But when I spoke about losing our dog on social media, I was inboxed by so many people who were either going through the same journey or who appreciated the updates, and that's why I thought I would do a podcast to go into more detail about it. So welcome to the show, my love. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to record this podcast.
Me too, and thank you so much for being open to doing this. I know it was a sensitive topic and it didn't happen that long ago. When did we put Jax down?
Jax got put down about 2.5 weeks ago. He was sick for a little while before that, obviously for 3 months before that, but yeah, 2.5 weeks ago we had to put him down. So it's been a challenge since then, and there's as with anything, there's some positives and some negatives that have really come out of it. So
yeah, and that's what I want to share as well. So let's go back a little bit, because I only met Jax 3 years ago when I met you, so I didn't even know, I guess, how that would have felt for you. I mean, I was upset, I cried, but tell us about Jax. How did you actually get him? How did he start?
I've always wanted a dog. We always had a few family pets, but they were always a dog that I probably wouldn't have chosen, to be fair.
The Pomeranian.
A Pomeranian or a Maltese Shih Tzu. So I wanted something different, something with a bit more oomph, I'd say. So, we purchased Jax through a breeder in Werribee in Melbourne, and we got him in 2013, and he was the runt of the litter. So he was the one that was always running around biting the other dogs, and there was something different about him, which I liked, so he had a bit of character. So, yeah, we got him in 2013 in April, I think it was. So, yeah, that was a really good time. I was with my ex-partner at that time, and it was just good to have somebody around.
Having that company and... Yeah, 100%. And I love that you chose the one with a bit of character, a bit of oomph. I'd never really come across a Staffy before. He was an English
Staffy, yeah.
Blue
Staffy.
And I'd never experienced anything. He had this personality where he was just so affectionate and so playful, and yeah, had his own like traumas and a bit of anxiety, but he was such a character. So that's how you got him. Now, when did you start noticing he was sick? Because tell the story of when we got that surgery and what led to that.
I think, obviously throughout Jax's life, there's always been little things that I've had to take him to the vet for. You know, he's had stomach issues where he's just eaten something wrong and he's had to go get some antibiotics and that to clear his stomach. I've always really had that. But it was probably about 4 months ago where I started to notice things that he's never really done before. Probably the most significant was him not wanting to walk. He's always wanted to walk. And would probably only walk 100 metres down the street, and he would just anchor himself and just say, no, I'm not walking anymore, I want to go back. And just things from there started to... there was things that started to show that was very uncommon for Jax. You know, he wasn't eating as much, he wasn't as mobile, and you sort of put it down to, is it old age? Is he just getting older and he's obviously not moving as much? But I think as time progressed, and it wasn't a long time, it was only probably a period of a month from when I started to notice these things to the point where, he was on the balcony vomiting violently, and we rushed him to hospital or the emergency vet. And he had emergency surgery, removed 20 centimetres of his small intestine because it was completely blocked from cancer.
Yeah.
And it was a process. It was quite emotional. There was a good chance that he might not make it through from his age.
How old was he?
He was 11. 11.
Is that old?
Look, their life expectancy varies, I think, from about 12 to 14, but I think for a Staffy, it probably is a bit... It's not young, but it's not... I don't think I think he would have done another 3-4 years if he didn't get cancer, to be fair. They usually do live up to around 13, 14, so... But yeah, just had to rush him to the hospital, and he had emergency surgery, and they removed his intestine, 20 centimetres of it, and... yeah, from as far as I'm aware, the feedback that I got from the vet was that it was a great success. They removed it. They had a bit of a look around and couldn't really see anything else that was concerning. So, yeah, we got on with things. They advised me. They said, look, it is cancer. It isn't an aggressive cancer, but the type of cancer that he had was probably expected to come back in the next sort of year or two at the max. So they said just keep looking out for him and see if there's any signs and so forth. So we brought him home, and for the next 2 months he was amazing. It was like he was
reborn.
1 year old again. He was just running around. He was full of life, wanted to walk again, eating, playing, back to 1 year old Jax. It was amazing. So yeah.
It sort of got a little bit better from then. Now that you say that, I'm actually reflecting when we were back in Melbourne. So we moved to the Gold Coast last year January. So it's been 1 year. But I remember when we were living in Melbourne in South Yarra, he was doing that thing where he wouldn't walk, and we just put it down to, he's not walking with you. Remember how we just thought it's because the other person wasn't there?
Yeah.
Do you think that was it, the start of the sickness? Or do you think he genuinely... Because he doesn't walk when the other person's not there, and he's...
Sometimes, yeah. On most occasions, that was the case. Once that never happened when I was by myself and I was walking him. He never stopped that. But I think, yeah, the Staffies are very family-orientated dogs, and they're very like wolf pack mentality. So, yeah, if you're not there or you're lagging behind, he always anchors himself and waits for you. Like that was just Jax. But yeah, on reflection, after he passed away, it did make me wonder, like, how long was he sick for? Because there was some times where, he was walking and then he'd stop, and I just, I'd come on, Jax, let's go, and you just wonder, like, how far back the cancer had come and how long it had been affecting him for. Because I think, look, they're pretty strong dogs. They don't really show much pain or anything like that. He's had so many things happen to him throughout his life where you're just like, oh my God, like, how are you just sitting there and just...
Yeah, they hide it.
They just hide it so well. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he could have been in pain. He could be in... I guess we'll never know. But I mean, you just got to put it down to, from your perspective, have you done everything possible to help him, and
to check,
which we did.
Yeah, and I think, so number one is just noticing any unusual signs or symptoms from your dog. I feel, maybe because I didn't know Jax as long, there were things I sort of mentioned to you that, I thought, there's something wrong with him, or he's not well, and you're like, nah, he just, ate a chicken bone, or, he's, had something on the street, and this is really common for him. Do you think there was part of you that was in denial that he was sick?
It's a good question. I don't think that there was any denial that he was sick. I think for me, obviously having him for 10 years, 11 years, there's so many things that he's done that is just like,
he was bulletproof.
They're just so tough. Like, seriously, like, one story is he cut his toe off. We had a glass mirror in the house. Remember that?
Yes, we went to get coffee and we just had a glass mirror that was standing, and then what happened when we got home?
Well, he was wet. It was raining that day, and we were moving into the new house, and I had a glass mirror leaning up against the wall. I hadn't hanged it up yet. I just put it up against the wall and resting on the ground where I was going to hang it, and I came back and the mirror was upside down on the ground, and I'm like, shit, that's a pretty heavy mirror. It's odd that would have fallen. And yeah, I went for a shower, and then I get you rushing in, screaming, saying there's blood everywhere. I don't know what's going on. And I came out, and he's sitting in his bed in a pool of blood, just licking his paw. Not crying or anything like that, just licking his paw, and just nothing really, not showing any type of pain or... And I grabbed him, wrapped him up in a blanket, took him to the vet, and yeah, he sliced off about 1 centimetre of his toe, one of his toes, and obviously the mirror fell on him. And yeah, just stuff like that. Like, you're having him for so long, and anybody who's got those types of dogs, the staffies, the pit bulls, and all that type of stuff, you know that they're just so tough. There isn't
Yeah.
really much that stops them. Or
Yeah, I remember I was feeding your dog avocado on social media, and people were inboxing me saying, "Oh my gosh, you can't give a dog avocado." I didn't know these rules, but he was fine. He wasn't even sick, so he was very strong. But just on that story, there was red stuff on the floor, and I thought it was capsicum because I was cooking breakfast. And then when I looked, it was a trail of blood, and then I'd found what looked like a horn on the floor, and it was his toenail. So our hypothesis is that maybe he saw his reflection in the mirror, jumped on the mirror fell, cut his toenail, and then he just was wandering around the house just dripping blood.
Yeah.
But he was such, a strong dog. So he was unwell in September, and I secretly feel bad because back then I'm like, oh, babe, it's old age. I think it's his time to go. I think you've just got to accept it. And you kept saying, Steph, something is wrong. Something is wrong. And something inside of you, your intuition was telling you to take him to emergency. What made you act on that? Because normally you listen to me, but this was the first time you didn't.
yeah, I think obviously I saw him deteriorate quite quickly. I remember we took him to the vet during the week, and they just said, look, we can do all these tests and everything on him, and x-rays and ultrasounds and blood tests and so forth, and it could be something serious, or it could be something just minor, like just he's eaten something that's just upset his stomach, and because every time he had an upset stomach, he'd eat grass, which is most dogs do that. And obviously, yeah, I mean, every time you take him to the vet, it does get quite expensive. It is an expensive process. We didn't have any pet insurance because I've never really had pet insurance. Although he's caused me a few issues, he's never really been one of those dogs that goes to the vet very often.
Yeah, okay.
But we took him to the vet. They gave him some paste that I had to put in his mouth, some tablets that I had to feed him. But yeah, it just progressed over the next 3 to 4 days, very, 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 very bad. So I had to. I remember it was a Saturday, and I'd taken him to the vet on the Thursday, and he wasn't getting any better. And he went and took a sip of water, and he ran out onto the balcony, and he just threw up. It was like The Exorcist, just like
He would never normally
pool of
do
vomit.
that.
So I knew something was wrong, and we took him to the vet, and obviously, yeah, that was when we found out he had cancer. He had emergency surgery, and from there, I think then once you have that realization that that, hey, it is something a lot more serious, then every time something pops up, it's like, well, could it be that?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the emotion of guilt, because I think a lot of guilt comes up when you have a pet or when you're, dealing with their illness. Like, for example, you think, oh my gosh, all those times I tried to force him to go for a walk, he had cancer, or he was in pain, or he had a twisted bowel. And I feel like even when we put him down, there was still a lot of guilt, like psychological guilt. Is it the right time? Are you meant to put him down? Can he go on another day? Because when he went to the vet, he was happy, he was excited, and I know it's adrenaline, but one of the things people reported to me was that being unsure if putting them down is the right decision. So along this journey, did you experience any guilt?
Yeah, I did. The first time after I found out that he had cancer, I did feel guilty because there was occasions where I'm like, come on, Jax, walk. And I didn't pull him, but it was more like a forceful, come on, let's keep on going. And, you just wonder whether, I hope he wasn't, but you wonder whether he was in a lot of pain at that time. But no, I felt guilty. I think the most guilt I felt was when you have to make the decision to put the dog down.
Yes.
And it was
so sudden.
It was so sudden. It was so quick, and you're just like, well, am I making the right decision? You sort of see a bit of life in him, and you're like, well, is it the right thing to do? Am I going too early? And it was tough. It's a tough decision to make, but I think selfishly, you want him to be around for longer. You want to postpone the inevitable, but are you doing that selfishly for your own good, or are you doing what's right for the dog? So yeah, he always went into a rampage when he was at the vet, always looking for other dogs, and he loved going to the vet because it was his opportunity to come face to face with other dogs. But I did feel a bit of guilt, but I think reflecting after he passed away, it was the right thing to do. I did everything that I could for him. I think they were probably the best decisions that you could make in that situation. And that's all you can really do.
Yeah, for sure. And just on the suddenness of it, and I think that plays a big role in how challenging it is when you've got a sick pet or you've got to put them down. So we got a call from the vet because she took him in and said, look, I'm going to do some tests. So the process is they'll usually do blood tests, and the blood tests will just tell you symptoms such as the dog's dehydrated. So then they're like, let's put him on a drip. And it's all well and good because you're healing these symptoms, but you don't actually know the cause. So we sort of just said to them, look, can we bypass the blood test? Can we go straight to the ultrasound? We just want to know if it's cancer, how far gone is it, and what is the process? She called us at 12:30 and said it's not good. She had found lumps in his abdomen and said, I don't want to, keep him in pain much longer. And she gave us the option of the 1:30 and 5 o'clock time slot to put him down. Did you feel pressure when that happened?
Yeah, you feel pressure, you feel uncertain, like you don't know what the right thing to do is. Like selfishly, like I said, you want to spend a bit more time with them. But I I took that call, and I know you were in the room, but I don't think I panicked, but I think I just thought of it from the sense of, don't be selfish. He's by the sounds of it, what she's saying to me is that he's in pain, and the right thing to do is to probably put him down as quick as possible. But yeah, I made that decision initially. Hey, I'm just going to put him down at 1:30, which was at an hour later from when the call was happening. And I remember, you remember the story when I put the phone down. You're like, well, are you thinking straight? Why don't you actually go pick him up? Why don't you take him? And yeah, I'm very grateful you mentioned that, because it was really good. I went and picked him up, and we took him to the park, and we had some McDonald's. And
we said, let's give him his best last day. You know what? He's been, even if he's in pain, a couple of hours, he's going to be sedated. Let's just do it. So we decided to go to the vet, kidnap him, and have the best last day. And I think he just wasn't himself. And that's what I think the thing was for me is, yes, you can keep them longer, but are they having the same quality of life? We'd be eating dinner and he'd go outside and sit by himself. That was so uncharacteristic of him. He used to jump on us or want food, and it was just sad. It's like he'd just checked out, and it was sad to see. And just seeing him as this new version of himself, or this, like slower version, you just know they're not the same. And that's where you've got to really question, are you doing the right thing?
I think also he knew as well. I think he knew.
He knew.
He definitely knew. I think the last day, he definitely knew what was going on. He was aware. I think he'd also realised that, hey, like this is the final process.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the process of putting a pet down. I definitely think it's wise to have a dog bank account or funds allocated to a bank account over time for your pet. Pet insurance is really good to help mitigate this, but I think when you're going through a stressful time, the last thing you want to be worried about is, a $6,000 operation and any unexpected costs. So if you're listening to this and you think that would be useful, definitely think about putting some money aside, even a little bit a week, for these unexpected costs. We didn't have pet insurance, so yeah, it was a little bit pricey to go through all of this process. How much did it cost from, I guess, the process of getting the tests and putting him down, and the cremation and the options?
The first time that he went to hospital for the emergency surgery was the most expensive.
Yes.
So that was, I had already spent about $1,500 that week at the vet doing just blood tests. I didn't go to do an ultrasound or anything like that, but I just did blood tests, and they gave him all these different antibiotics and stuff like that because they thought he was dehydrated and he had a sore stomach. They gave me the option to go down that path, but knowing Jax from previous experiences, it's always he's eaten something or something's upset his stomach, so I thought that was going to fix the problem. And yeah, I did what I did, and obviously that didn't fix the problem, so we had to rush him to emergency surgery on a Saturday, which was, we couldn't take him to the vet that we normally take him to because they were closed. So obviously, that's a lot more expensive. Well, I don't know if it's a lot more expensive, but it is more expensive. So yeah, that emergency surgery and process cost about $7,500.
Was it? I thought it was six. Six and a
No,
half.
all up. So 1,500. So $6,000 plus the 1,500 for the week. So
okay.
about $7,500 that week. But you know, it's like I said, it's hard. It's your pet. You know, at that
Remember,
point.
he was just looking at you, and he's like, "Are you going to leave me like this?"
Yeah, I know. And that was the first time I broke down.
You cried.
Yeah, I did.
It's just
It
you're
was
not
so
you're not
emotional.
prepared. Like, imagine if one day they're like, "Yep, $7,500." Well, maybe some people are prepared, but your dog's just looking at you. You
It's
know?
also like you just yeah. It's obviously it's a lot of money, but you know you just wonder, like, are they in pain? You know, am I making the right decision? Anyway, so we went through with it. We had the surgery, and then the next time I was a bit more prepared, going back with the same symptoms. So obviously they wanted to do a blood test, which doesn't really show much. Just shows if he's dehydrated and his levels, which would only indicate that he's got some type of stomach bug or something like that, which
Yeah.
based on his previous experience with having cancer, it was, for me, it was, you know, potential obvious that he has cancer again. So I didn't want to spend the, you know, $1,000 for blood tests and excuse me, and the you know, the X-rays and so forth. So we just went straight to the ultrasound because
Yeah.
I said to the vet, look, you know, happy to spend the money for the ultrasound because that'll indicate to me whether the cancer's come back, and if it has, then we know it's that, and we don't have to worry about drips and blood tests and all that type of stuff. And yeah, that morning she did the ultrasound and she found masses in his stomach. She'd found that his bowel had given way, so he couldn't control it. I think it was punctured as well, and yeah, it was
He was not
very
okay.
quick from there. It was the same day.
Yeah, and then when we went to put him down, I think the cost varies. It's between 200 and 500. And I know some people who've had their dog put down at home because the dog has a vet phobia. So it just depends. Because we did it at the vet, it was on the lower end of it. And I just want to do a shout out to the vets. They were amazing. They were extremely empathetic. They give you all the information to prepare for the process. So we went into a room and you have a blanket on the floor. You can say goodbye and the dog goes in another room to prep for the procedure, and you can leave your dog there. You don't have to be in the room while they put them down. But oh my gosh, I heard that apparently when you're not in the room they look for you, and that made me feel really sad.
Yeah, I was never gonna leave him by himself. But that was just my decision. It's not, doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. And people who don't go into the room doesn't mean that they're, you know, a bad person. It just means I just wanted to be there for it. But yeah, it was a tough, for me, honestly. The lead up and everything before that was more emotional than the actual putting him down.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I've never seen you cry so much, and it was really nice to let you like see that part of you.
I think it was just, yeah, the lead up was a lot. I was very emotional, but I think I was sort of prepared for it. I knew it was going to happen. You sort of know that they're in pain and you're going to give them, you know, put them at ease. So, yeah, it was, yeah, like you said, shout out to the vets because it was such a well done process and they're so respectful of the whole circumstance. And, yeah, it was actually a pleasant experience.
Yeah, and what really got me was Jax never walks off with anyone else. If someone takes his lead, even when we took him to the vet earlier that day, he wouldn't go with the nurse and he was looking at us, and then the minute she went to take him to the back room where they prepare them, he just walked on through. He's like, yeah, I'm ready for this.
Yeah, he knew he was going, and
Even she said he knew.
yeah, they know, they're not silly. So yeah, it was a nice process. He knew, happens very quickly.
Oh my
so you got
gosh.
to prepare for that. It happens. It's over in about 15-20 seconds. So
They give them 2 injections.
I think it was 3.
3?
Yeah,
There was
3.
the sedating one and then the one that stops the heart.
Yeah, there was 3 in total. And the last one was this green. It's like a green liquid.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it happens very quickly. It's very, and there's no pain.
They're just
so
lying
that's
down.
That's good to know that he wasn't in pain. It's just, yeah, basically put to sleep, and then there's some type of chemical or something that's administered that basically stops his heart when he's asleep. So he doesn't even know. So
And it looks like they're lying there. So just in case you're not aware of this, dogs' eyes stay open when they pass away. So he was lying there with his eyes open. So it looked like he just was resting. It didn't look like, anything else. So, yeah, you stay there. They give you some time if you need, and then they take care of everything. So you can choose to have the dog cremated, or you can choose to have the dog buried. It's buried on council property. This is in the Gold Coast. This might vary depending on where you're located. And it's not like a grave site where you can visit them or anything like that. What made you choose to go down the cremation path?
I just had, I mean, Jack's meant a lot to me, and we've been through a lot together, so I wanted a piece of him moving on, so I was always going to go down the cremation path, or if I had, obviously, because we don't, we move around a lot, so we're renting, and obviously if I had a house, maybe I would have considered burying him in the backyard if I was going to live there for a while, but obviously because we move around, I'm not going to really bury him anywhere, so I think cremation was the next best thing, and that was a nice experience as well. I mean, the Pet Angels service here was really, really good, and they were really, really good. And we went and picked up his ashes, and now we've got a piece of him at home.
And they had this location you go to, and you walk in, and there are these two little dogs. There's all these urns you can choose from. You can get a necklace with the ashes, and they're like, "Do you want to come in and see Jax?" And we're thinking, "What?" And they take you to this room, and it's like a memorial. There's chairs, there's tissues, and your box is sitting at the front, and it was so nicely done. They had a card, and they put a paw print of Jax's paw in the card. They put the fur in a little bag, and we got a big urn with his name on it, and a small one for your brother. And they were extremely empathetic, really peaceful, really respectful. And I guess after all that happened, I mean, it's been a few weeks. Do you feel you've processed the grief? Do you feel it's been up and down? What's been, I guess, challenging after?
I think the challenges are the little triggers. You don't realise how many things you do on a daily basis that involve your pet. For example, waking up in the morning, opening up his cage, taking him for a walk so he can go to the toilet, coming back, feeding him, obviously walks, even just having him around. Like, there's been a few times where I've put on a pair of shorts and there's a poop bag in it.
His bags are everywhere.
And it's like, Jax is reminding me of him so I don't forget him. But I think about him. I light a candle for him every day, and it gets easier. It gets easier, but it also, he's always in the back of my mind, and always thinking of him. But it's also part of life, and it was actually really funny because I was obviously, a few people in the building found out, and one of the ladies came up to me and gave me a hug and said, "I'm sorry about your dog," and she said something that was really nice. She said, "Look, I know that it seems like it's a short period of time, or you've lost Jax, and it sucks, but you just got to look at it from the perspective that you've been around for his whole life."
Yeah.
And it's true, he lived 11 years old, which is, 77 whatever years, dog years, so he lived his life. But when you just compare it to, obviously, to us, it seems like a short time, but he was here for a long period of his life, so it's a good way to look at it. It helps you sort of process it, and I don't know.
He's been part of our life, but we've been all he's known his whole life.
Exactly right.
Oh, that makes me feel warm and fuzzy. So, I think the week it happened, I noticed you weren't present. It's almost like you dissociated, and I was trying to be really patient and really kind of empathetic, but it's hard because life does go on, and there's things you got to do and things you got to organize. And I think for me, the challenge was, okay, like, I understand this is really hard for you, and I want to give space, and it was, challenging for both of us, but you especially, because he's your dog. Do you think it's just time? Does time help you sort of become functional again? Not that you weren't functional, but you weren't as present as you normally are.
Well, obviously, that lead up, that week or two before that, it was hard because he was, his bowel had given way. He was walking around, and we had to clean up after him all the time because he was dripping, and he couldn't control his bowels, which was hard. So it's like a full-time job. He couldn't sleep at night. Have to wake up 3 or 4 times during the night and get him, and he had gone to the toilet on his bed which wasn't pleasant. You have to get up and you have to put it in the washing machine and clean it. And
He was crying at
yeah,
night.
it's just hard. It's hard to function when you've got all this stuff going on. And yeah, I mean, it was hard. Of course it was hard. It was hard. It was hard to stay focused. It was hard to think about anything else because, I've a great relationship with Jax. He's been there for me through some really tough times, and it's like my son. So, it was hard to process. It was, you're frustrated. You're sympathetic as well at the same time for the dog, and trying to juggle the challenges of life as well as that.
And the timing was challenging as well because it was happening just before we were going to Melbourne, but the timing was actually really good because we were struggling to find a kennel to put him in, and we were going to give him to a lady in the building, and I was a bit worried because she'd had young kids. So yeah, it's almost like he knew and he did this at this time for us. So what about life now? Obviously it's hard and we miss him, but has there been any, I guess, not benefits, but has any aspects of your life changed without him around in any way?
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, obviously the main one is, we travel a little bit as well. So every time you travel, you've got to find a place for him to stay. So whether that's at a kennel or whether that's, with somebody, which we always used to really put him in a kennel, but, over Christmas and that can be quite challenging unless you book well in advance. So, yeah, I think, being able to just get up and do whatever you want or go somewhere for the weekend without having to worry about, where am I going to put Jax, who's going to look after him and so forth. I think that's been a positive. And then, I think the negatives are like, he makes you walk.
Oh my gosh. My steps have never been so high since this relationship. My step intake has just been astronomical.
Yeah. So obviously
they keep you
take
healthy.
Him for a walk. They keep you healthy. They're good for your mental clarity as well. They come and they jump on your leg or they give you a hug and stuff like that. We used to always wake up every morning and have a 5-minute cuddle and play fight on the carpet, which he loved. And
boys,
he used to run and grab his toy and try to fight me with it. So yeah, all those little things are things that you really miss and value when you reflect. So
yeah, there's so many benefits to your mental health. With having pets, they reduce your stress. They can actually help reduce your blood pressure too. They provide companionship, a sense of stability, consistency, and routine. They can give you a sense of purpose because you have to look after them. And they also can increase your social interaction. You walk past people and, hi, tell us about your dog. I never realized there's a community of people who love staffies. And when I started putting him on Instagram, people just loved it. So thank you everyone for your messages. And if you've stuck around to the end, thank you so much for being here. We really hope that this episode has helped you, I guess, understand a bit more about the process of going through a difficult time with your pet. I believe the message really is to just allow yourself sufficient time to grieve. It can be really painful and grief is a natural response. So just, validate how you're feeling, talk about it with people, and do what makes you feel better. And if you need, always get professional help. Thank you so much for being on the show. Is there any parting words or words of advice you want to give the listeners?
Probably that, when the time comes and, I've actually, it's funny because after Jax passed away, there was another person that I know that was in a similar situation and she was making the decision on what she wants to do and a little bit, selfishly, I think she was trying to hold on as long as she can and prolong it, even though she probably maybe wasn't the right move. But I think, I don't think there's a right or wrong time to do it. I think, if it's quite obvious that the dog's suffering and it seems like the right thing to do, then just go with your gut and make that decision because, selfishly you want to keep them around for a little bit longer, but, a day or two isn't going to really make a difference. And I think, just don't beat yourself up over it and just know that you are making the right decision.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here today. And if you've got a pet, give him an extra tight squeeze tonight. We will see you in the next episode. If you loved this or enjoyed it or found it useful, please reach out and let me know on Instagram, leave a rating or a review, and we'll see you in the next episode.